We're diving deep into a coin that may just be lurking in your collection, waiting to make you a small fortune. Yes, we're talking about the 1988 D Washington quarter dollar. You may think, isn't that just a regular quarter? Well, my friend, you're in for a surprise. This seemingly ordinary coin could be worth a whopping $2.4 million. And today, we're going to break it all down for you: how it happened, why it's so valuable, and how you can spot one if you're lucky enough to have it. So, grab a seat, relax, and let's get started. Let me take you back a few years that I was cleaning out some old boxes in my attic. Nothing exciting, just the usual junk. But in one of those boxes, I found a bunch of old coins. Among them, there were some quarters that looked like they'd been sitting around for decades. I thought they were just your typical, run-of-the-mill Washington quarters. But as I flipped through them, one in particular caught my eye. It had a bit of a strange shine to it. I set it aside, thinking maybe it was just a lucky find. Fast forward a few weeks, and I started doing some research on quarters, and I stumbled upon a mind-blowing fact: that 1988 D Washington quarter could be worth a small fortune. I couldn't believe it. I thought I had just stumbled upon a great find, and let me tell you, it's moments like this that make coin collecting so thrilling. If you're anything like me, this kind of discovery gets your heart racing a little bit, right? I'll tell you exactly why this coin is so valuable, and how it could turn a regular day into a life-changing one. The value of the 1988 D Washington quarter. Now, let's talk about why this 1988 D quarter is worth so much. You might be wondering, what makes this one special? It all comes down to something called a mint error. While most coins are struck with the usual minting process, sometimes there are small mistakes made in the production. These mistakes often result in coins that are incredibly rare, and as we all know, rare things are valuable. The 1988 D Washington quarter has a couple of key characteristics that make it stand out from the crowd. It's the result of a misstrike, where the coin was minted with an incorrect die, giving it unique characteristics that make it highly sought after by collectors. These errors weren't intentional, but once they were discovered, they created a frenzy among coin collectors. What's even more incredible is that, despite being struck in the millions, only a handful of these 1988 D quarters with the error have survived in pristine condition. And that's what makes this coin worth a staggering $2.40 million. The minting process and what went wrong. So, how does something like this happen? Well, let's get into the technical side for a moment. The US Mint produces billions of coins every year, and most of them are perfectly struck, with all the details and designs looking sharp. But once in a while, things go wrong in the production line. The dies used to strike the coins wear down or get damaged, and when that happens, the coins start to show unusual features. These errors can range from things like double strikes, off-center strikes, and even missing details. In the case of the 1988 D quarter, the die used during production didn't strike the coin properly, leading to a rare and valuable mistake. Now, there's something important to note here: not every 1988 D quarter is worth millions. Only those that were affected by the error and have survived in exceptional condition are the ones fetching the big bucks. That's why you need to be extra cautious and really inspect your quarters carefully. Alright, so you're probably asking, how can I tell if I have one of these rare 1988 D Washington quarters? Well, it's not just about the date and mint mark, though those are the first things you'll want to look for. To really know if you have one of these valuable coins, you need to look closely at the details. The first thing you should check is the mint mark. The 1988 D Washington quarter should have a D mint mark on the reverse side, just to the right of George Washington's portrait. This tells you that it was minted in Denver. Look closely at the coin's design. The 1988 D Washington quarter that's worth a fortune has a distinct error, usually involving a misaligned die or double strike. You might notice the image of Washington is slightly doubled or that the edges of the coin are a bit off-center. The condition of the coin is critical. The more well-preserved the coin, the more valuable it is. You'll want a coin with sharp details, no heavy wear, and ideally a coin that has been graded by a professional. If it has been kept in mint condition, then you might be looking at something worth well over $2 million. Why are coins like this so valuable? So why is this 1988 D quarter worth so much? Well, beyond the rarity, the market for collectible coins has been booming. People love the thrill of hunting down rare coins, and the value of coins with unique characteristics, especially mint errors, has risen dramatically over the years. The fact that a coin like this is so rare, and with fewer of them in good condition, makes it a perfect candidate for high-dollar bids at auctions, but let's not forget about the fact that coin collectors and investors have been willing to pay top dollar for these rare items for decades. If you're fortunate enough to find one of these coins, you're not just holding onto a piece of history, you're holding onto a potential windfall. And remember, the market for rare coins is constantly shifting, so there's no telling just how much your 1988 D Washington quarter could be worth in the future. If you find yourself staring down at a 1988 D Washington quarter and you're wondering whether it could be worth millions, here's what I recommend you do. First of all, take a deep breath. This could be the moment that changes everything, but it's important to stay calm and collected. Look for those signs we talked about, particularly the misaligned die or double details that if you think you've got a valuable coin, the next step is to have it graded by a professional. This will give you an official evaluation of its condition and authenticity, which is crucial for selling it at the highest possible price. That if it turns out you've got a mint condition 1988 D quarter, you'll want to consider putting it up for auction. Big-name auction houses like Heritage Auction specialize in rare coins, and they have the clientele who will pay top dollar. So, there you have it. The 1988 D Washington quarter dollar might just be sitting in your pocket or in a box of loose change, waiting to make you a fortune. I can't stress enough how important it is to check your quarters carefully. Who knows, you might be holding onto a $2.4 million gem without even realizing it. As always, keep your eyes peeled for those rare finds, and remember that coin collecting is not only about treasure hunting, it's about the thrill of discovery. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the 1988 D Washington quarter, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more coin hunting tips and rare coin stories. If you've been searching for a coin that could turn your collection into a goldmine, let me tell you, you might be sitting on a hidden treasure without even knowing it. Picture this: a quarter, one you probably have in your pocket right now, could be worth a jaw-dropping $2.5 million. Sound crazy? Well, it's not. Today, we're talking about the 2017 D George Rogers Clark quarter, and trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be looking at every coin you come across in a whole new light. But before we dive into the details of this mind-blowing coin, let me tell you a quick story. I remember the first time I came across a coin that was worth far more than what I thought it was worth. It was just like any other quarter, until I did a little digging and discovered it was a rare gem. Ever since, I've been hooked on finding those hidden treasures, and today, I'm sharing that excitement with you. Now, if you haven't heard of the 2017 D George Rogers Clark quarter, don't worry, you're about to learn everything you need to know. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of coin collecting and how this small but mighty coin could make you a millionaire. Let's start with a bit of history. The 2017 D George Rogers Clark quarter is part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, which has been issued by the U.S. Mint since 2010. These quarters honor significant national parks, monuments, and historical figures across the United States. The George Rogers Clark quarter specifically commemorates George Rogers Clark, a military officer who played a critical role during the American Revolution, particularly in the Western Theater. His most notable achievement was leading troops in the capture of British-controlled Fort Vincennes in what is now Indiana. The design on the reverse side of the 2017 D George Rogers Clark quarter features an image of Clark himself, standing with his sword raised in a dramatic fashion, looking toward the fort. The backdrop includes a depiction of the fort and the surrounding landscape, symbolizing the strategic importance of this historical event. Now, you're probably thinking, that's all well and good, but what makes this quarter worth $2.5 million? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Like any rare coin, the value of the 2017 D George Rogers Clark quarter comes down to its rarity. You see, most coins that were minted in 2017 are worth face value, 25 cents. But it's the ones that have unique features, errors, or other quirks that can make them stand out. And this is where the magic happens. In the case of the 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter, there's something very special about certain specimens. While the vast majority of these quarters were produced in standard quantities, a few were released into circulation with a mint error or an anomaly that makes them highly collectible. These errors range from things like double strikes to unusual die clashes, and when collectors find one, the value skyrockets. A quarter that was originally worth 25 cents could end up selling for millions if it has the right characteristics. Let's break down what makes this coin particularly special. It all comes down to two main factors: the Denver minting mark and the condition of the coin. The 2017 D mint mark tells us that the coin was minted in Denver. Typically, coins with this mint mark are a little more valuable than those produced in other mints, simply because fewer are produced with this mark. This gives the 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter a slight edge over other quarters, but that's just the beginning. Now, let's get to the fun part. What makes some of these 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarters worth up to $2.5 million? It all boils down to specific, rare errors that happen during the minting process. For example, some of these quarters have been found with double strikes, where the coin was struck more than once by the press, creating a misalignment or an overlapping design. This type of error is rare and highly sought after by collectors, especially when it's as noticeable as it is on these quarters. Then there's the condition of the coin. As with any collectible, the better the condition, the higher the price. A coin in mint or near mint condition can fetch top dollar at auctions. If you happen to find a 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter in pristine condition with a rare minting error, you could be sitting on a coin worth millions. So, what else makes this particular quarter so valuable? A lot of it comes down to the collector's market. The America the Beautiful Quarters program is highly collectible, and certain coins within the series are known for being more valuable than others. The 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter stands out because it's not just a historical coin, it's also part of a larger, much-loved collection. Add in the fact that the design features a revolutionary figure and an important battle from American history, and you've got a coin that is both historically significant and sought after by collectors. Most of the coins you come across in circulation are never going to be worth much more than face value, but if you keep your eyes open for those small signs of rarity, whether it's an error or a perfect condition coin, you could find yourself holding a treasure that's worth far more than you ever imagined. Now that you're excited about the possibility of finding this $1 million coin, let's talk about how to actually spot it. First, check for the mint mark. The 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter has the D mint mark, which is important. Then, take a close look at the coin for any signs of errors. A double strike, where the design appears misaligned, is one of the most sought-after errors. Next, examine the condition of the coin. You want to look for coins that are in excellent shape, ideally, those that have no wear or visible damage. Coins that have been in circulation for a while tend to get scratched up or lose some of their shine, so the ones that remain in mint condition are more valuable. Lastly, if you think you found a valuable 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter, it's a good idea to get it appraised. There are professionals who specialize in rare coins, and they can help you determine its value based on its condition, rarity, and any unique characteristics. The 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter is a hidden treasure that could be worth up to $2.5 million. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just someone who's casually interested in coins, this coin proves that you never know when a simple quarter could turn into a fortune. Before you rush off to check your pockets or dive into your coin collection, remember that while most coins are still worth their face value, a small percentage of them, like the 2017 D. George Rogers Clark quarter, can make you a lot of money if you know what to look for. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about rare coins, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss the next time we dive into a treasure that could change your life. And hey, if you've ever found a rare coin, or if you're on the hunt for one right now, drop a comment below and let me know what you found. I'd love to hear about your coin collection adventures. We dive deep into some of the most valuable coins you can find, whether it's sitting in your collection, or maybe even one you didn't know you had hidden in a drawer somewhere. Now, today, I've got something really special for you. It's a coin that you've probably seen before, but chances are, you didn't know it could be worth over $2.6 million. I'm talking about the 1979 D Washington $quarter coin. Yeah, you heard that right. $2.6 million. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, there's some serious value wrapped up in this little coin, and if you're a collector, or even if you just have a passing interest in coins, this is something you won't want to miss. Stick with me, because in today's video, I'm not only going to show you how this coin can be worth more than a small mansion in some parts of the country, but I'll also share some tips on how you can spot one of these little gems if you happen to stumble upon it. So, grab a seat. Maybe even a cold drink, because this story is going to blow your mind. Let's dive in. Alright, first things first. The 1979 D Washington quarter is a coin that, on the surface, might look just like any other quarter you've seen throughout the years. It has George Washington's face on one side, the eagle on the other, and the usual mint markings. But here's where things get interesting. Why is it worth so much? Well, it all boils down to a perfect storm of factors: rarity, condition, and a little bit of coin-making history. You see, back in 1979, there was a massive run of quarters being produced, so most of them are pretty common, nothing special. However, a small percentage of these coins came out of the mint with what's called a double die error. That's when the design is stamped more than once, causing a noticeable duplication in the lettering or features. Now, you might be wondering, why does that make it worth millions? Well, it's because those small errors, the double die ones, are extremely rare. People go crazy for these mistakes, especially when they're from well-known coins like the Washington quarter. And what makes the 1979 D particularly valuable is that, out of the millions minted that year, only a very small number of these coins had the error. Finding one is like finding a needle in a haystack. Here's a quick side story for you. I once came across a guy, let's call him John, who had been collecting coins for decades. He had a bunch of old quarters, including a 1979 D, and he almost passed it off as just another ordinary quarter. He had no idea it was worth a fortune. But after doing a little research and getting it appraised, he ended up walking away with $2.6 million. Just think about that. One simple coin, sitting in his drawer for years, and it turned into a life-changing amount of money. Let's get down to the nuts and bolts of it. First, you need to be sure you're looking at a 1979 D. The D mint mark means it was minted in Denver, so it's not a Philly or a San Francisco coin. Important to note because the market cares about that. Once you've got the right year and mint mark, you'll need to look for the signs of a double die error. The key features to look for are in the lettering and date. On a typical 1979 D quarter, the date and the word Liberty should be clean and crisp. But on the double die error coins, you'll see a slight doubling or distortion of these features. The most common areas to check are the Liberty and In God We Trust inscriptions. If you look really closely at these areas and notice any kind of split, shadow, or extra image, like a slight second image, then you might just have a winner on your hands. It can be tricky, and the error can be subtle, but if you're able to spot it, you could be looking at a coin worth an incredible amount. If you're unsure, it's always a good idea to get it appraised by a professional. You'd be shocked how many people have tossed these coins away without realizing their true worth. Let me tell you a little personal story about a similar situation that happened to me. Years ago, I was rummaging through some old change I had lying around and came across a 1979 D quarter. It looked like a pretty regular coin, nothing too special about it. But there was something about it that caught my attention, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I didn't think it was worth much, but just for fun, I took it to a coin show. The appraiser looked at it, then took a second look. Then he asked, "Do you know what this is?" I said, "It's a 1979 D quarter, right?" He smiled and said, "That's a double die. You've got yourself a rare one here. It could fetch a good amount in the right market." Long story short, that little quarter ended up getting me a decent chunk of change. Not 2.6 million like the super rare ones, but it was still an awesome find. And it just goes to show, sometimes, it pays off to double-check the coins you might be overlooking. Could you have a 1979 D Washington quarter sitting in your collection or change jar that's worth $2.6 million? Maybe not, but with some careful attention and a little bit of luck, you just might have something that's worth a lot more than you thought. Remember, the key to making these big finds is to never underestimate the value of your coins, no matter how small or ordinary they seem. It's the subtle details that make all the difference in the world. And trust me, once you start spotting these rare coins, you'll start seeing value everywhere. Do you have any 1979 D quarters sitting around, or maybe you've come across a coin that you think might be valuable? Drop me a comment below and let me know what you found. I'd love to hear your stories. If you enjoyed today's video and want to see more rare coin finds, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and I don't want you to miss it. Keep hunting, keep collecting, and who knows? Maybe your next find will be worth $2.6 million. Do you ever look at your change jar and think, what if there's a hidden treasure sitting right under my nose? Well, I'm about to tell you about one of those treasures that's been quietly sitting in people's collections for decades, the 1965 Washington quarter with no mint mark. And, spoiler alert, it could be worth a whopping $2.70 million. Before you get too excited and start rummaging through your spare change, let me give you the full story. This isn't just a random coin, it's got a fascinating history and a pretty crazy backstory. And who knows? Maybe you've got one of these hidden gems lying around somewhere, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. In the next 35 minutes, I'm going to break down why this coin is so valuable, how to spot one, and even share some stories from real collectors who hit the jackpot with a 1965 Washington quarter. Stick with me, and you might just learn something that'll make your collection even more valuable. First things first, what makes the 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter so special? Well, let me start by explaining what it is and why it's so rare. You probably know that most coins made by the US Mint will have a mint mark, right? These little letters, like D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, tell you where the coin was minted. But the 1965 Washington quarter, for reasons that still puzzle many, doesn't have any mint mark at all. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In 1965, the US Mint was in the middle of a major transition. It was the first year they stopped using silver for most of their coins, switching to a copper-nickel-clad composition. The 1965 quarters were supposed to have a mint mark, but something happened that year. Due to a shortage of workers at the Philadelphia Mint, some of the quarters ended up being released without the mint mark. These were mistake coins, and that mistake turned out to be a big deal. The fact that these quarters were produced without a mint mark means that there are far fewer of them than most other quarters from that year. There's no clear answer as to why this happened, but experts believe that the Philadelphia Mint simply didn't have the time or resources to mark every coin that year. A lot of these no mint mark quarters were quickly released into circulation and have been sitting in people's change jars or collections ever since. So, how did these seemingly insignificant quarters go from being just another piece of pocket change to a $2.7 million treasure? Well, in the early 2000s, a collector by the name of James S. discovered the true rarity of the 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter. James had been collecting coins for years, but it wasn't until he stumbled across one of these quarters in a bag of mixed coins that he realized what he had found. Just a worn quarter from the mid-60s. But as he dug deeper into his research, he found that the no mint mark version of the 1965 quarter was an extremely rare mistake. After contacting coin experts and getting the coin authenticated, James learned that his coin was worth millions of dollars. Since then, the value of these quarters has skyrocketed, with some coins selling for over $2.7 million at auction. It wasn't just about the coin's rarity, it was also about the historical context, a coin from a time of major change in U.S. currency production. Collectors loved the idea that this quarter had slipped through the cracks of history, and they were willing to pay big money for it. Now, you might be wondering, how can I tell if I've got one of these valuable coins in my collection? It's not as simple as just looking for a missing mint mark. The first step is to familiarize yourself with the basic features of a 1965 Washington quarter. The coin features George Washington on the obverse, front, and on the reverse, you'll see the traditional eagle design that's been on quarters for years. What makes the 1965 no mint mark quarter stand out is the absence of a mint mark. Normally, you would expect to see a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But this one has nothing, just a clean spot where the mint mark should have been. If you've got a 1965 quarter, check it closely. If it's from Philadelphia and has no mint mark, it could be the jackpot coin you've been waiting for. Keep in mind, though, that there are only a few hundred of these quarters still in circulation. Many of them were spent quickly and are now lost to time. So, if you've got a coin with no mint mark, it's time to get it checked out by a professional. You'll want to make sure it hasn't been altered or worn down too much, because condition plays a big role in determining its value. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition are worth more than those that have seen heavy use. It all comes down to rarity and demand. When something is rare and in high demand, its value increases, and this coin is a perfect example of that principle. Think of it like finding an old baseball card that's suddenly in demand by collectors. The rarity and the historical significance boost the price. For years, coins from the 1960s weren't worth much, they were just another part of pocket change. But as time passed and collectors started noticing the lack of a mint mark, they started to realize how rare these coins were. Over time, interest in the coin grew, and its value skyrocketed. The $2.7 million value is not just a fluke either. It's been confirmed by multiple auctions where these coins have fetched staggering prices. The last known sale of a 1965 no mint mark quarter reached the $2.7 million mark, setting a new standard for this coin's worth. And if you manage to get your hands on one in good condition, you could be the next lucky person to cash in. Let's talk about real stories from collectors who found this rare coin. Take, for example, Robert, a collector from Ohio. Robert had been into coin collecting for decades, but he didn't have high hopes of finding something truly valuable. He'd heard rumors about the 1965 no mint mark quarter, but it always seemed like a long shot. One day, while going through a box of coins his uncle had left him, Robert pulled out a 1965 quarter and nearly tossed it aside. But something stopped him. He noticed there was no mint mark. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be? He rushed to the computer, did a quick search, and sure enough, he had found a gem. That coin, in decent condition, ended up selling for a whopping $2.4 million at auction. Robert's story is just one of many. There are collectors all over the world who found these rare coins and struck it rich. And it's not just the 1965 no mint mark quarter that's out there. There are other coins from various years and mints that could be hiding in plain sight in your collection. The 1965 no mint mark Washington quarter. What started as a simple mistake during a transitional year for U.S. coins has turned into one of the most valuable mistakes in numismatic history. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone who stumbles across a random coin now and then, this is one coin that could make all the difference. If you've got one of these rare quarters, don't just toss it in a drawer and forget about it. Get it checked, and who knows? You might be the next person to walk away with a small fortune. As always, keep an eye on your change, do your research, and stay curious. You never know when you might find the next big thing. We're diving into one of the most mind-blowing coin discoveries of the decade. Trust me, if you've got a collection of coins sitting around, you'll want to pay attention to this one. We're talking about the 1996 P. Washington $quarter coin. Yes, that coin, the one worth a staggering $2.80 million. Now, before you start shaking your head thinking, there's no way I have one of those, hear me out. I'll walk you through how these coins made it to the top of the collector's charts and why, if you're lucky enough to have one of them in your collection, you could be sitting on a small fortune. And hey, if you're new to the channel or just love coins as much as I do, hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on any of the incredible finds we'll be talking about today. Alright, let's rewind a bit. It's 1996. The United States Mint is cranking out its regular production of coins, including those classic Washington quarters we all know and love. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just another year, another batch of quarters. However, little did anyone know that one specific batch of these 1996 P quarters would end up being worth a fortune. And the best part? They're not your standard run-of-the-mill coins. These babies have a special minting flaw that turned them into pure gold. Figuratively speaking, of course. In 1996, there was a rare and unusual error that occurred during the minting process. A small portion of the quarter's design was struck onto the coin incorrectly, causing a very subtle, but significant, difference in its appearance. Over time, collectors and experts began to realize just how valuable these errors were, and the market went wild. In fact, this particular minting error catapulted the 1996 P Washington quarter to a whopping market value of $2.8 million. This isn't your everyday coin collection story. It's all about that rare, elusive mint mark that makes this coin special. If you've ever come across a coin with the 1996 P mint mark, that's the one you're after. The P stands for the Philadelphia Mint, which is where these coins were produced. The difference between a regular 1996 quarter and the error version is so subtle, it might be tough to spot unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So, let me break it down for you. Now, I can already hear you asking, what makes this particular coin worth so much? What's the big deal? Well, here's where things get interesting. When a coin is minted, the design is usually transferred perfectly onto the surface of the coin. But with the 1996 P Washington quarter, a small but significant error occurred. The coin was struck multiple times with the dies, and as a result, some of these coins have a slightly off-center design. The Washington quarter usually features a bust of George Washington on the obverse, head side, and an eagle on the reverse, tail side. The minting mistake on these 1996 P coins left part of the design slightly off-kilter. This subtle flaw is what makes the coin valuable. For a collector, this error makes the 1996 P quarter rare, extremely rare. And as you know, in the world of coins, rarity equals value. So, if you come across one of these coins, you're sitting on more than just pocket change. You're holding on to a piece of American history worth a fortune. Now, you might be thinking, that's cool and all, but how do I find one of these rare quarters? Well, it's not as easy as checking your loose change or rummaging through your coin jar, but it's possible. Here's how you can identify a 1996 P Washington quarter that's worth a lot of money. The first thing you need to check is the mint mark. Look for the P on the reverse side of the coin, just under the eagle. If it says P, then you're halfway there. As I mentioned earlier, the key feature that makes this quarter valuable is the minting error, so you need to examine the design closely. Check if the designs on the front and back are properly aligned. Look for any signs that they are off-center, even if it's a small amount. Any misalignment means that you've got yourself a collector's item. As with most valuable coins, condition matters. The better the condition, the more valuable the coin. If the coin is in mint or near mint condition, it could fetch the highest price. A coin that's been circulated and has visible wear will still be worth something, but the price drops significantly. So, keep an eye on the quality of the coin. Not every 1996 P Washington quarter has this error, so it's rare to find one. If you do find one, it's important to have it authenticated by a professional. Coins that are verified by a grading service or expert can increase in value because collectors know it's the real deal. Now, let's talk about the market for this coin. The price of the 1996 P Washington quarter has been steadily increasing over the years. Since the error was first discovered, the value of this coin has continued to climb. We're talking about a market value of $2.8 million, and that's no joke. Here's something that might surprise you. Coins like this don't just sit around waiting to be found. They're constantly being bought and sold at auctions, through dealers, and at coin shows. That means the value of your coin could be even higher depending on when and where it's sold. So, if you happen to have one of these rare coins, it's worth keeping an eye on the market to see if you can get top dollar. You might be wondering why a quarter, something most of us barely notice, can be worth so much money. Well, as I said before, rarity is king in the coin world. This 1996 P Washington quarter is rare because of the minting flaw, but it's also valuable because Washington quarters are highly collectible in general. Add to that the fact that this coin has a fascinating backstory and a history of selling for millions, and you've got yourself a truly remarkable find. In the world of coins, certain years and mint marks carry significant value. The 1996 P Washington quarter stands out because of the minting error, but the appeal of Washington quarters has always been strong. After all, George Washington is not just a historical figure, he's an icon. If you come across a 1996 P Washington quarter in your collection, don't just toss it into your jar with the rest of your loose change. Take a closer look. Examine the mint mark, check the design, and assess the condition. You might just be holding onto a rare, valuable coin worth up to $2.80 million. I hope today's video opened your eyes to the value hiding in plain sight in your coin collection. If you learned something new or found this video interesting, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll be back with more exciting coin finds, so stay tuned. And hey, if you've got any 1996 P quarters lying around, take a good look at them, they just might be your ticket to a small fortune.